Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar, Discover the Story of Sage Intacct powered by ADP, co-hosted by Bass Business Solutions, Sage, and NDP. My name is Sarah Ostoltsova, the Marketing Manager at Bass. So before we dive in, just want to cover a few housekeeping items. If you have a question, please put it into the question box. That way we can address it at the appropriate time. If you have any issues like technical issues, please put it in the chat box so that way we can do our best to assist you. And then finally, ensure your power cord is plugged in, your volume is turned up. Without further ado, I'm thrilled to introduce Kevin Quain, Partner Account Manager at ADP. Kevin, over to you.
All right. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Bass team, for helping set this up. My name is Kevin Quain. I'm the partner account manager with Bass, but with ADP today. So myself and colleague Shannon Lang are going to take you through what exactly Sage Intacct Payroll powered by ADP is, how it works, why it works, and wrap it up with the technology demonstration. So without further ado, we can move along. Again, myself, Kevin, and Shannon will be the ones speaking today. And quick overview of the agenda. So introductory of what Sage Intacct Payroll powered by ADP is. You'll hear us maybe call it SIPR, which is just Sage Intacct Payroll powered by ADP for short. So who's SIPR for? What's the best makeup from as far as a client that we work with? The value proposition, and then, like I said, we're going to round things off with the technology demonstration. So let's start here, right? Okay, Kevin, what is powering Sage Intacct Payroll? So you may or may not be familiar with ADP, but within our mid-market solution, we have a payroll and HRIS engine called Workforce Now. Workforce Now is our mid-market solution in both leader in both Canada and in the US. And it's a full service platform, right? So it's not just payroll, it has HRIS, it has timekeeping systems, and then everything from a hire to retire. So this Workforce Now came out in about 2011. We've had upticks and renditions, and then this led us out to in the latest, which is Sage Intacct Payroll, powered by ADP. So if you jump to the next slide, when we rolled this out in partnership with Sage, the main reason was Sage Intacct. They did a really good job of looking within and understanding on why and where they lost deals. And the number one reason was payroll and HRIS. So instead of building that solution, they went to a partnership. They evaluated ADP along with 15 other payroll and HRIS vendors. And then obviously ADP, we won the partnership. So this launched in the spring of 2023. And you'll see that the main reason why later in the show was the deep integration that we have with Sage Intacct. So since the inception of spring of 23, we have over 450 clients on Sage Intacct Payroll powered by ADP. And then to quantify that, in Canada, we have about 35,000 of Workforce Now, which is what's powering Sage Intacct Payroll, and then another 50,000 in the US. So it is a proven solution and a model, and we're excited on the partnership with Bass and Sage Intacct on. Okay, so if you're a fit for everyone, you're a fit for no one. So there are some prerequisites to be applicable for SIPR, right? So I'll start on the left here. First and foremost, a minimum of 25 employees, right? So this is a mid-market solution. So 25 is the floor, and really we have clients up to 2,000 employees. So we kind of cover the whole gamut of that small and medium, and then the early introduction of the enterprise space. It's applicable to all verticals. We do really well in construction. We do really well in healthcare. Pro services, nonprofit is a massive one, but this is applicable to all industries. So you do need to be purchased or on Sage Intacct with a financial management, right? So you can't just purchase this as a standalone. It does need to have in conjunction with Sage Intacct. And then again, we can be employees in both the US or Canada. The knockouts for this is pretty much the opposite of what we said on the green slides there on the left. Okay, so the value proposition, right? So we understand that there's plenty of other payroll solutions out there. Why SIPR? In short, it's a lot of the reasons why you purchased or are evaluating Sage Intacct, right? So have the ability to unify systems, so aggregating multiple tools and processes to help with efficiencies. Scale, right? We'll get into this, how this is a month-to-month subscription. There's no contracts, and you don't have to purchase everything all at once. You can just start with payroll and purchase the different deliverables as your needs grow and change. So on the scale, and then the better insights, right? So that's really the core of that, is the integration between the systems of payroll, HR, and accounting, and unifying them. So let's talk a little bit more about unifying systems. If you think about this, the best way I like to describe it is there's in HCM, which is human capital management, there's a slogan of hire to retire. So that's kind of the whole gamut of where Sage Intacct Payroll, powered by ADP, will hit you and your employees. So when you think of like hiring, applicant tracking, right? Your requisition team, you need to grow a headcount by 10. Like, how do you find those employees, attract them, and then keep them? So the applicant tracking through the HRIS, obviously payroll, the benefits administration, right? So open enrollment, life changes, the ERP integration, which we'll talk into more on what that looks like with Sage Intacct, a learning management system, data analytics, time, and performance and compensation management. So it really has the whole aspect of this. And then if you jump to the next slide, Shannon, what I like about this, and what we're kind of talking to in scale, it's a consumption-based product, meaning you don't have to buy everything on that previous slide. You can start with payroll, and if you need payroll in time, payroll in HR, or the full suite, you can tack this on. So what I like about this is the reoccurring billing on this doesn't start until once you're live, right? So that is a little bit of a difference on the ERP side. You pay the implementation up front, but the cost of the subscription really doesn't start until after you're live, and it's all based off of headcount. So it's a per employee per month versus users, to what you're used to on the Sage Intacct side. So the scalability with this is super customizable. And then on the better insights, right? This is, in short, this is why we won the partnership with Sage Intacct. So yes, it's the general ledger, but most payroll companies can have some type of an integration with the accounting side. But the big thing is the employee data, right? An API, ADP would be the system of record for hiring and firing employees. That would then translate into Sage Intacct. Expense reimbursements, inbound and outbound time. All that means is like, who's the system of record for timekeeping? Is it Sage and time and expense, or ADP? We have the integration with both. And then probably the most popular is the dimension sync, right? So you add a new project in Sage Intacct, that'll flow into the time card for SIPR, for ADP to tag their hours, their projects too. So that's what the integration looks like, and really what kind of separates us from the competition, and ultimately won the partnership with Sage Intacct. So that's some of the value propositions, and just to kind of level set on what the process looks like, especially in working with BAS, like we believe in being thorough, but also simple, right? Make it easy for you, the buyer, to evaluate this. So Haya just jumped on, but she is the dedicated account executive for BAS. She would be taking you through the sales cycles. So Haya, if you want to touch on briefly what that process looks like, more than welcome to here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Kevin, and good morning, everyone. Very nice to meet everybody. So Haya here from the sales team. I've been with ADP for about 9 years, and I will be leading the sales cycle, looking at a 30 to 60-minute discovery call to iron out and narrow down what modules are a fit for the organization. And based on that discovery, I would schedule a second call for a demonstration. So I'll bring in somebody like Shannon to walk you through the demo of the system tailored towards the needs that we discussed in the discovery. And then our last call would be a quick review of the financials and the pricing and next steps.
Beautiful. Thank you, Haya.
No problem.
Taking the same thought process when at post booking, right? So what does implementation look like? So I built out a quick timeline, but in short, you can look for this project to be 12 to 14 weeks from the kickoff to go live. And then from a time spent on this, you can look at about 4 hours a week, right? And that doesn't have to be to just one person. So that could be split up between one or multiple individuals within your organization. But it's safe to say call it 4 hours a week with a time commitment to do the implementation. So you can see the breakdown here. It's really 6 steps, but it's the project plan, the analysis, configuration, obviously learning, validation of that data, and then we go live. So that is what the value proposition, the sales cycle, what the implementation looks like. Now I would love to throw it over to my colleague Shannon for us to get our eyes on the actual tool. Shannon, over to you.
All right, it'll just take a moment here and I will get the presentation up and running here. So very nice to meet everyone. My name is Shannon Lang. I'm a Principal Solutions Consultant here at ADP. I've been with ADP now just over 6 years, but before that was a payroll and HR administrator myself. So look forward to walking through the technology here with you. So please pop those questions in the chat there and we'll be happy to answer any of those at the end of our session today. I would like to welcome you into Workforce Now here. I am logged in here as the administrator. So Workforce Now works with security role-based options. So I only get to see what I'm allowed to see within the solution. As a frontline employee, when I log in, I have access to my own information under the first 3 tabs here. Our supervisors and managers add in the My Team tab. And then as the administrators, we access the whole organization or the portion of the organization I'm allowed to see through the people through setup. So you do get to decide what people can see. And I do have all the modules on here today that we talked about during the presentation earlier here. However, today we're going to focus on our core 3, which is the payroll, the time, and the HR. But happy to speak with you and Haya about any other modules down the road. This homepage here is where all employees are welcomed, and as I mentioned, it does change based on what I'm allowed to see. Everything from showing things like vacation balances and requesting time off, their pay information, and even these dashboards here will change based on the modules that I'm accessing within the solution. I'm going to start us sort of on the employee side of the system, and then we'll work through time and attendance and payroll from a manager and practitioner's perspectives. So as an employee, I have access to my own information. Now, this can also be done on the mobile device. It is a free download through the Android store or the App Store there, so you can get it on either platform, free to download. And this is where employees can access and update things like their address information. They can see their pay information. We can even track any licenses or certifications. So if we do have a driver's license requirement, for example, we can actually remind people that they need to go and renew that so that they aren't driving around with invalid licenses. We can also even track company property here on the side. So if you did want to have people keep track of things like driver's licenses or cars that people may have, or company phones and so on. So this is all configurable here, and employees can update and view this information as well on their mobile device. Same with their pay statements. They're going to be able to come in and see their pay statements, get their tax statements online. So they will be able to see that. It is always masked for privacy for them when they log in. Initially, we can see our information down here. We can open it up and take a look at all the different rates of pay and the units and earnings codes and taxes and deductions. The really nice piece here is the color coding matches that of an administrator as well. So when we talk about that later, we can compare that. They can also do that comparison, which I'm sure you get a lot of lovely conversations about why did you take all of my money come the beginning of the year. When those CPP and EI start all over again, they can actually break it down and see the differentials here as well. Now, employees will also be able to come in and access a portion of what we call our document cloud. So think of this as their employee file, but here they can only see the portions of the file that you are allowing them to see. So for example, if I don't want them to see a performance review section, I can limit that to just a manager and HR or payroll, or I can actually have documents loaded for them where they can actually come in and complete signatures on a document. So there are two options. I'll show us this version here today, and we'll talk about the other during onboarding, but they can read the document. Hopefully they're going to scroll all the way to the bottom before they'll type in their name and click the box here. Now this is, if I scroll up just a little bit, this is what the signature will look like at the time of completion, and then they will be able to access that information. Documents can be expired. There is no limit on the number of documents you have in here. My only catch is that each document is no more than 15 megabytes when uploaded, and that is about 300 pages of text. So that's quite a large amount of information. Now there is the option to have multiple signatures on documents as well, and we'll talk about what that looks like during the onboarding process. Additionally, employees can participate in surveys or receive broadcast messages here. We do have the option of sending these to their mobile device. They'll also receive an email. Now with the surveys, they can be confidential, so if you do need to get some feedback from your employees, you absolutely can do that. It does review the conditions of that confidentiality here, and they can simply walk through and answer those questions. The other option is, we have a statutory holiday coming up here at the end of the month, or at the end of the week here, I guess the long weekend is coming, just reminding everyone that the holiday is coming and that the office will be closed. And they can simply acknowledge that here. You can also use this to ask them quick questions or gather feedback as well. Now, the employee will also be able to access their time card and their schedule, but we're going to view those from the supervisor's perspective in just a moment. But before we pop over there, I'd like to just talk about different ways of collecting time. Now, there are several options. Most of them will work very similarly to what we see here. There is a web-based clock, obviously, that we can see. There is the option to add an actual physical time clock that has the option of using proximity cards or biometric options with a finger scan. There is also the option to use your mobile device and have that geo-fenced. So depending on how we need to have employees capture that time, there are plenty of options, and we'll be happy to discuss those more in detail. Now here, employees can simply click clock in, and that will start their day, or we can use something here called transfer and punch, where we then can add in the different dimensions that employees need to capture for your job costing. So these dimensions will sync automatically as part of that dimension sync that was mentioned to be able to update, so they can select these from a drop-down list. And these would be all configured to your specific dimensions. They are completely configurable and alphanumeric. They're not simply just numbers here as mine are. So they would be able to select that information and have that transfer directly into their time card. And that's going to then take us over into how our supervisors and managers are going to manage their team. Let's start with the team dashboard. So this is where managers get a good insight as to things they need to maybe complete. Being able to review employee time off requests, being able to check the schedule to see if others have already having time off that week. In this case, there's no one else off, so I can choose to approve or decline this if I would like. And then it's going to update not only this person's balances with approved time off out of the pending option, but it will also go ahead and update the schedule and their time card with that. So one entry flows to multiple places. The other piece here on the dashboard is I'm going to be able to check in on shifts. So if people are punching in and out, or they're working straight hours and that's more or less than what we were expecting them to view, we can actually see those discrepancies here. And I can also see my new time cards here as well. So I can actually view a time card directly from here. And this is one of many options we have for time cards. We do have the option here to have different pay classes or groupings of employees, where you'll be able to set all of the rules we need to abide by. So how are we going to get the time into the system? Are we able to deduct automatically for a meal break, or do you want to have them punch in and out? What statutory holidays we're observing, and how are we going to calculate that, as each province and territory has its own set of rules. You can choose to elect rounding rules, and when does overtime kick in. Now these are just some examples, and these will all be gathered during that implementation process and then configured accordingly. So it does have the option for daily and weekly overtime, as well as any shift premiums. And there are many rules around that as well to be able to configure that for you. Now, in the time cards here, these ones we see here across the top, these will be mimicked to match your dimensions in Sage that you need employees to update. So from here, they'll be able to select the different drop downs and then be able to make the change based on those pieces of information. Now, the other nice piece here is we do have the option to have them update that information. We also have the option for them to come in and get paid different rates of pay for that. So based on the earnings that employees have, we are able to see all of the different transactions and the different rates of pay. So if you do have employees that maybe get different rates for doing different work, that absolutely can be tracked. Additionally, employees can update with out-of-town premiums through what we call a supplemental pay code, for example. We are also able to add in things like bonuses or other sort of entries here, mileage calculations, and so on. So during implementation, we would go through all of those different options for you to be able to track that. All we ask is that at the end of a pay period, a supervisor or manager here approves the time card, and then that information can be fed directly over into payroll for any payment that needs to be made. Additionally, in here, we are able to track where the hours are coming from, so being able to make sure we have employees having the right amount of time, that we aren't spending too much time on overtime. We're also going to be able to track that directly here, being able to see who's hit overtime already and who may hit, and then who has time off this week. The other piece you're going to get is some quick little insights here into who's maybe working on days you weren't expecting them to. Maybe you have a few folks that are perpetually punching in and out late or early, trying to gather some extra overtime or trying to sneak out early every Friday before the long weekend. You can track all of those here with these insights. Additionally, we have what are called the time card exceptions. This is where we can view all of the discrepancies on a time card in one spot so managers can review it with ease. Last but not least, Workforce Now does come with an entire scheduling module here as part of the time and attendance. This allows you to see your employees' schedule, create potentially a shift pattern where employees can be set up to work the same shifts week in, week out, or a rotation perhaps. You can also use what are called quick shifts here to easily add and make changes to the schedule. You can simply drag and drop and add hours into an employee's schedule. And there is the option here to have additional scheduling features such as drafts, being able to call out for open shifts if you do have vacancies within your shifts or schedule, or you need to ask people to work extra time on the weekend, as well as setting schedule rules as part of our advanced scheduler. That advanced scheduler also allows you to have skill-based scheduling. So if you do need to have a certain requirement, for example, we work a lot in healthcare, I need to have CPR, I cannot be trading with someone who potentially is working in the kitchen. So we do have different options around those different qualifiers for the schedule to help make sure that people are only trading and making changes with employees that they are eligible to do that with. The advanced scheduler also allows your employees to put in their own availability. Now, if you would prefer to view the schedule by perhaps a different job or activity that they're working on or location, you can absolutely do that as well, and you can view and add filters here. Now, this is the manager's view of the schedule, so they're only going to see the people that they are responsible for. However, as the administrator or a scheduler, perhaps you may have access here under the People tab as well for everybody utilizing the scheduling features. Now, managers also have access to additional pieces of information within the organization. And this is being able to do things like see all of their employees. They can notify you that they've decided to hire someone if you would like. You also have the option to have them view employee data. Now this here again is at your discretion. You can decide how much of this you would like for them to see, but you will notice things like SIN number are automatically blocked off for the managers as they're not required to see that. Now this is employee details, so things like phone numbers and email addresses and whatnot. And then we have the option for the employee information. Now this here allows managers to trigger different events. So maybe Bernard here needs to be promoted. I'd like to start a job change. Maybe he's given his notice of termination. We can start that process here, or we can place him on a leave of absence. Now, just because they start a process here does not mean that it's automatically applied within the solution. There are options to have different types of job and termination processes where we do send that off to another person within the organization, usually another manager or administrator, to complete the remaining steps. You will get to decide what that workflow looks like, so you'll have access to all of that. Now, this page here is where we, as managers, can see things like the job titles and salary information or hourly rates. Keeping in mind, if there are any pieces here you do not want them to view, then that is fine as well. We can hide that information. Salary history is here for us, so we can always take a look at and see all of that background information to see how often Bernard has received an increase. Maybe he's eligible for one, and that will then trigger an employee change for us. Now, managers also have access to their time off balances for their team members, where they can actually see all of their team in a chart here. It does show the schedule overlapping that as well, and it allows them to see the time off balances and be able to enter that on behalf of employees. That way it will be automatically applied, and they can view any pending time here as well. There is a lovely legend down here indicating all of the different meanings of the different colors and symbols. Now, as an administrator, we sometimes have lots of other steps that we are completing. We have access to the exact same employee profile and the exact same personal profile that the managers have, but we do add in an additional one here, and that is called the pay profile. This is where we as administrators can view people's last pay information, see all of the information broken down here. We're able to see total taxes and deductions. We can even come in and view their tax statements here, as well as all of their pay statements. So being able to get totals, initiate stop payments, as well as being able to compare and answer any questions that employees may have regarding their pay. Now, employees' pay may be distributed over multiple departments or cost centers. From an employee's perspective, they see it from one spot. However, from an administrator, I can actually see this employee's pay was spread out over 3 separate departments or cost centers this pay period, and I can see those by just scrolling through by each one. The information as to the worked in department and the home department is located over here, showing the differences. Now here's where I'm also going to set up things like deductions. So maybe you have some health and dental deductions that need to be entered. We do have a benefits module that can help with that process as well. Maybe you have a garnishment, or you have other deductions that have to come off of the employee's pay, like union dues. We also have the ability to set goals to limit how much is ever deducted from a particular code here, as well as tracking anybody who may not have had the correct amount of money to cover any deductions. Any taxable benefits, their direct deposits are available for you for view here as well. And then, of course, their pay information. Things like car allowances or cell phone allowances can also be added into the system to be paid automatically each and every pay period, or each pay that you've indicated. For those that may be tax exempt, we do have the option to come in and edit that information to be able to show the tax exemptions. So if we do not wish to have CPP, EI, or federal income taxes calculated, those can all be done based on employee status as well. Additionally, we have the option to see their time off balance. As an administrator, my second least favorite question was how many hours of vacation I have, but we are able to see that front and center here, so we're able to track all of that. Things like vacation dollar accruals or other calculations that we are required, you'll be able to view the total results down here in the accumulator section. So it's sort of your one-stop shop of all things payroll related before we actually get into processing of the payroll. Before we make a pit stop over on our payroll processing, I'm just going to come in and we're going to talk a little bit about our HR dashboard. So from here, we're able to make all of those changes ourselves for initiating a termination or a leave. I can also see any pending new hires or changes that may be happening within the organization that maybe need to be tracked. And I can see where that process is and see if anyone is holding that information up, and we can follow up with them to get that completed. I also can see all of my new hires here. So I do have some pending new hires. When we hire employees, we do use templated wizards here. Same with terminations or leaves of absences, all have guided wizards. And so for here, we just have to enter anything with the little red asterisks. But about halfway down the page when we use our HR module is a beautiful blue button. I've already selected it here, but it's to ask the employee or the new employee to complete what we call an onboarding experience. What's going to happen is at this particular time, it's going to issue the employee an email. They will then be able to log in to Workforce Now and be able to create their account and then be able to complete all of their onboarding paperwork. So we're going to take a look at that right now. And so when we log in, we do have the option here to have the employee welcomed with a message. You'll notice the security is a little bit different, so the employee gets to complete their information here before they've even started. So this employee is not coming on board until about the end of July here, but we can start getting all of their information. Maybe you want to welcome them with a video. They can meet all their lovely friends that they're going to be working with here, and hopefully everyone's uploaded pictures of themselves. And then they're going to start entering all of that personal information that will eventually sync over into Sage as well. So they'll be able to enter their, preferred or chosen name. If they would like to use a different name instead, they can absolutely do that. And I can type today. They'll also be able to enter things like their address information and be able to put that into the system here. And then they'll be able to enter their tax information as well as their birth date for us here and their gender. If you would like to capture things like sexual orientation and gender identity, that is also available, and that will then produce metrics confidentially, of course, for them to be able to complete that. They must complete this section before we can go ahead and move into the tasks that they have to complete. Employees, whether they are new or existing employees, will be able to review any sort of drug and alcohol policies that you may have. They can simply come in and acknowledge that they've read the policy. Hopefully they're going to scroll through all 12 pages before they click the acknowledge button there. There is also the option to have them update their banking information. And for those that are getting a little nervous about employees entering that, it does have a beautiful void check picture there, as well as we have the option here to require them to upload their banking information by just dragging and dropping. Now, the other option is if I do complete this on my mobile device, I can take a picture of that. So it does link directly to the camera. You can add any other documents here that you might require from them, and this is completely at your discretion. You can create as many versions of these onboarding experiences as well, just to make sure that we have the right people there. They can also review any documents and complete electronic signatures or fill out forms here for us directly within the solution. It does come with an embedded version of Adobe Sign. They'd be able to enter this information and complete as many documents as you require. Now the employee will have access to all of this information here. They can complete their company information and get to know you a little bit better and have a summary. There is a lovely dashboard that we as administrators do have access to keep track of them, as well as to monitor the status. So we can make sure that they are getting completed before they come on board. Now we've hired people, we've talked a little bit around the terminations. We're going to jump into running the actual payroll, which is why we're all here today. So we do provide what are called company codes. This is how you're going to identify different entities, perhaps within your organizations. And so I have one down here for us where I have my list of things to do. And this is everything from records of employment, which we do directly files to Service Canada for you. You're able to review them, approve them, and then send them over either with the payroll or with overnight if you so choose. Any errors or entries that need to be adjusted on the time and attendance waiting for supervisor approval would all show up in this time and attendance, whereas all of our other pieces of information are going to show up in what we call a worksheet. So we can add a worksheet here. These can be brought forward and use the same one each week. It can have the same people in it. You can select specific people. It's completely up to you. And the columns here will be formatted based on the information. All the time and attendance information we talked about earlier will also be brought over into a worksheet just like this, where it will then have things like our regular hours and our overtime hours here, where it will then view that information. This is also where you're going to make one-off adjustments. This is also an example of where the expenses would be brought over from Sage and put into a worksheet here as well for processing. So it will all be brought in here. All of these codes will be configured and you can then make adjustments as well. Once we're ready, we can go ahead and click Calculate Payroll. This does run in real time. You are able to get reporting around things like who doesn't have any pay this pay period, terminated employees who are paid, still being paid, and so on, and all employee changes that are happening. So we do have all of our payroll summary here where we can see our total liability for the pay period. I can also see the amount that ADP will withdraw to fund not only your direct deposits, but things like your CRA remittances, your CPP-EI, and all the Revenue Quebec, as well as some WSIB or WCB and other organizations. We have a full list available if we'd like to review that. Now you'll also have access to all of your reporting along the side here. I am going to open up one of our registers here. They do open up in an Excel version. Once the payroll is finalized, you will get a PDF version of that as well. And I'll just make that a bit bigger here for us, where I can see here, for example, Ethan, we have his 80 hours this pay period, his salary, his total deductions this pay period, his federal taxes, and then any other taxable benefits and the amount that he's going to be paid. This column over here in column O is where we have any of those special calculations. Now, sometimes we do have people that have those multiple job costing pieces, and we can spread that information out so that when it's fed through the journal entry, it will go to the correct places. Now, assuming your payroll is happy and everything is good to go, you can go ahead and click Approve, or you can click Make Changes. At that point in time, we're going to be able to go and take a look at our reporting, and we'll start with our general ledger. Now, the general ledger you'll have a couple of choices here. It can create the GL file for you, be mapped directly, of course, to Sage. And mine here says download. You do have the option to use a download and manually upload it, but the value of the Sage partnership is having this changed to transmit, where it will then take this completed file and then transmit it directly into Sage Intacct for you. Now that can happen automatically, or you can choose to push the transmit button yourself, but it will produce a file similar to this with all of your account information. So of course, this is not the exact format that you would require today. It's a sample, but it has your debits, credits, and the descriptions and the account information. Additionally to that, we do have access to a full suite of reports within Workforce Now. So there are your standard reports, everything from payroll changes, final registers, audit trails, employee rosters, time off balances, and so on. You'll also be able to have some manager run reports here as well, where they can have self-service for those. In addition to this, we do also offer what we call our analytics, which comes included with the time and attendance and HR pieces of the solution. And here you'll be able to have metrics based on things like your headcount information. How has that been trending? You can look at it either over a time period like I have here, over 4 years. I can change this to view it potentially by department, for example, and then it changes the look of my metric. If you aren't the biggest fan of my stacked graph here, that's okay. We do have options for you to change and move that around to be reflective of how you would like to view that information. It also can be drilled down into if you needed to and get very specific. All metrics come not only with the graphic themselves, but the information of what made up that graphic or that analytic, as well as the ability to save these and then be able to combine them onto a dashboard. We, of course, do have some standard dashboards around this for you if you would like to use those to get started. And depending on my access level, I can view these on my mobile device as well. So hopefully if you do have to wake up at 3 in the morning and know exactly how many hires you've had year to date, you can view that on your mobile device, put your mind at ease and head back to sleep. So this information's all there. There are about 45 standard metrics when it comes with time and attendance, HR, and payroll. So you'll have lots of ways to get your access to that information, and it's a great complement to Sage. Last but not least, we do have our custom report writer, which just allows you to run reports on just about any field here in the solution. You'll be able to run it. It's called the Field Grabber. It's going to launch here with all of the information with regards to the fields. You can simply point and click, grab information here as well. From that, I can grab salary, for example, and I can create that report. Now I can go between multiple different pages here within the system to grab that information. You can come back in here and do calculations or add additional fields you may have forgotten, add in filters if you need, and then save and run. Like all of our reports, they can be scheduled. We can send you a link letting you know that they are available for download. And reports can all be exported into Excel, CSV, or PDF, again, depending on my requirement there. And with the custom report writer, like the analytics, you can create your own charts and graphs. So it's just taking a moment here while it's running that last report for us. Security also flows through here on the report. So if I'm not eligible to see things like SIN number, for example, these would always be blocked out. And so that concludes our tour here of the Workforce Now solution. You have access to help systems throughout the system if you do need to ask questions, as well as you will have access to a service team. With that, I'd like to open the floor for the last remaining time here for any questions and look forward to answering those.
Great. Thank you so much, Shannon. So we do have a couple of questions that have come through. So for the first one, can you update the pay rate percentage across the organizations?
Yes, you do have the option to do what we call a mass change and say for all employees, change 3%. You can do it that way. That is an option, yes.
Perfect. And does it allow to have vacation rates 4, 6, 8% based on seniority?
Yes, so you do get to choose the dates on which we utilize that to do those calculations. So it can be seniority date, hire date, rehire date, or any date of your choosing.
Okay. And for payroll, what about the remittance for TFA, RRSP, pension? Would it be sent automatically to, let's say, Sun Life or Manulife?
There will be some that are available. We can get a full list of those for anybody who has a specific one. They do vary based on the vendor, but things like RBC, Sun Life are available, but there is a full list.
Perfect. And can you track employee payroll details by projects or assigned to certain contract?
Yes, you absolutely can. One of our standard reports can do that, or we do have customized reporting that can grab that information. This payroll detail report here is great for that, can grab all of those project hours as well.
And can you drill down to payroll info from Sage Intacct reporting?
That one I will have to pass over to a Sage representative. I believe you would be able to, with the file information, will all transfer over. So then the reporting in Sage will be able to mimic that as well. Okay. But as for specifics, that I can't speak further to that.
Okay. And how do we ensure that payroll data is accurate and matches between ADP and the financial system? Are there validation processes in place to ensure the integrity of the data during transfer?
Of course. So if there are any errors that do happen to come up on the general ledger, those will be flagged to you to let you know that the account number was incorrect or was mapped to the wrong spot. At any point in time as well, you can review the mapping if needed. And there are options to run additional reporting. So, and drill down options within the general ledger to do that.
Okay. So how are errors or failures in data transferred handled? Is there an automatic retry mechanism? What steps should be taken if payroll data doesn't sync correctly with the financial system? And how can historical payroll data be reviewed if discrepancies occur after synchronization?
Oh, great question. So there is a integrations dashboard that will flag any of those potential errors for you. So that's where you'll find those. And with the general ledger, you can always rerun the information and the reporting depending on what you need. And in those particular instances, if we are noticing a discrepancy, then it would probably be best to engage with your service team to help get a customized report to get you exactly what you need. And then that way you're able to review it very specifically. It's hard to say without knowing exactly what the error would be.
Right. And if an attendees, we are currently using ADP, WFN, and Sage Intacct, and they would like to explore the integration opportunity, which party should they initiate their request?
That would be a great question for
I can
Haya.
do here. Yeah. So definitely we can qualify if the connector is available for the Workforce Now solution. It depends on which version of Workforce Now. So I will send a follow-up email to ask for the company code. I'll review what version of Workforce Now it is, and if it qualifies, definitely we can connect over a call and I can walk you through what the integration looks like, pricing, and next steps.
Thank you, Haya. Can payroll be generated on biweekly fixed rate by employee without completed time records?
Yes, you can use the time information just as record keeping without transferring it to payroll. That is absolutely a possibility. So you can do that. Just you do have to still complete the time cards and move them to the next pay period, as you're not able to go back and modify once a pay period has been moved forward. So you'll still need to complete the time, but whether or not it goes into payroll for processing, it is not required to do so.
Right. And a follow-up question to one that, or a similar question to about the one regarding integration, but another one on if they're using ADP, how can they integrate it with Sage?
Yeah, so same response here. We'll just need to qualify what product you are on the ADP side. So I'll need the 3-digit or 4-digit company code. Once I get that, I can connect with you and then walk you through if the connector is available and then what that entails.
Yeah, and it's bring us up a good point to piggyback on that. So if you already are on ADP Workforce Now, you can purchase the connector, right? So it's not the full Sage Intacct Payroll powered by ADP experience, but it does have the integration that we talked about in that slide a couple of back. If you're on a competitor, if you're not using ADP, that does make you applicable for Sage Intacct Payroll. So it would be the same response of like reaching out to Haya, which we will have. I think Sarah's going to close this out with the next steps. So those are kind of the two paths, right? Are you an ADP client or not? And that would dictate if you're applicable for Sage Intacct Payroll or the connector.
And is there a contingency plan in place if the integration fails after going live?
Yes, absolutely. We have a dedicated service team that is aligned and has the specialist that works on the integration that can troubleshoot if there's any issue with it.
Okay. And for the about data, where does the data reside in Canada? Data does it reside in Canada, I should say.
Yeah, no problem. I can take that away for sure. So the data resides in the US. We do, of course, have all the security measures in place that we can provide all the white papers over to the client. And in terms of security itself, we're a tier 4 security company, so one level above the banks. And of course, we can provide all the supporting documents.
Awesome. So time card reporting by employee is needed to use this system? Question mark?
If the employee is a time employee and you need to track time and attendance, then you would probably need to use the time module. But if it's just salaried employees or you don't really need to track the time in ADP, then you can go ahead and just opt in for payroll.
Awesome. And then final question is, how easy is it to migrate from just the current payroll system to Sage Intacct Payroll powered by ADP?
Excellent question. So we do take you through about a 12 to 14 week implementation process. to walk you through an analysis phase where we are collecting all the information that are required from a payroll, from a time. How are we going to connect all of that to the GL, to your dimensions in Sage? Once that phase is completed, we move into a configuration phase, build and testing. So overall, we look at about 12 to 14 weeks, including 3 go live payrolls with implementation. Once you complete 3 go lives with implementation, we pass you over to your dedicated service team, and that's when you get supported from that team. During the implementation and before the go live, we load all the year-to-date information. So this way you give your employees only 1 T4 at year end and not having to do 2.
Awesome. And I think that's all the questions we have. So thank you everyone for attending today's webinar on Discover the Story of Sage Intacct Payroll powered by ADP. And thank you for your questions. All attendees will receive a copy of this recording in a follow-up email. And if you want to schedule a personal call/demo, please contact your BAS account manager, or you can contact BAS Marketing. And then finally, I am thrilled to announce that this year's BAS Connect is taking place both in Toronto and in Vancouver. So on May 27th, we are hosting BAS Connect at the Paradise Banquet Convention Center, and in Vancouver on June 17th at the Anvil Center. It's a great opportunity to learn more about these different solutions that can work for you, and a link will be shared in our follow-up email. So thank you to our presenters, thank you to our attendees. I hope everyone has a wonderful day.